Oh, it's the Easy Coach. Welcome in. Thank you for showing up. Good to have you. We're back with Kristin, who we haven't seen in a while. She's smiling big and has, as usual, sent me an agenda that will take several hours to cover. But we'll do it all in 60 minutes. And we'll do it with new branding. So we got help from Presser, one of our channel followers, and he put up this nice two-person display. So we'll no longer have me bringing up windows over me. So let's see if I can do this real quick. See, when we want to display files, it'll look like this. And then when we want to talk to Kristin, it'll look like that. And we'll look really professional because if I'm going to coach professionally here on Twitch, we need the look. So we're debuting it tonight with Kristin. So with that, that's our topic. And Kristin wants to talk about how to build effective teams, specifically high performing, high impact teams. Yes, Kristin won't be visible in the file view. That is true. But that's okay. We won't be
Okay.
there long. In the future, you can crop her image without squishing it. Yep, sounds good. There's so many fun things I can do with the images. But I actually decided, yeah, it is squished. That's just like my guest weight loss plan. It makes everyone look svelte. So that's doesn't matter who's there. They're gonna look good. All right. So let's see.
Fantastic.
Uh, so we did have a new emote go live. It's the way. It looks like our compass rose. That's our new channel symbol, but the colors don't work very well in chat. And so we're gonna have to figure that out. I'll fix it offline and we'll get it reapproved. We also have a new one awaiting approval from last night's auction, the WTA logo. It looks really good if you're not on dark mode. Yes, I'm on dark mode. It's true. So if you're in light mode, go crazy with it. And the rest of us will have no idea what you're talking about. Um, Liger, you're going to get yourself banned or at least timed out. There's none of that. Come on. Um, so anyway, let's see. So jumping right in, Kristin hasn't been here in a while. So I invited her to give a little update on what she's been doing in the past few weeks.
Which was kind of difficult for me to recall considering I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
That comes from
Um,
having two kids, right?
yeah, I literally left work thinking I'm so hungry. I didn't eat breakfast. And as I said it, realized I totally ate breakfast. I had a huge breakfast this morning before I even went to work. So there's that. Yeah, so I've been busy. I've been collaborating with some folks at work to come up with some ideas on areas that we can make some improvements. As you guys probably have picked up by now, most of these are going to revolve around culture because that's what I'm the most passionate about. This is a passion project. So it's not my 80%, it's my 20%. And I'm running with it. So I've gotten some buy-in from leadership, and honestly, I haven't ever truly used an impact map before. I've just tried to get people to use it many times, and it's a little difficult to apply to this situation. So I'm excited to kind of work through some of my thoughts, and this is just a tool for me to kind of pull them out of my brain and try to organize them. Um, so yeah, I've been spending a lot of time just thinking through um, really trying to figure out of all the things that I think could change, where can I have an impact? Where do I think would be the greatest impact? So which things do I push for? And I'm kind of looking to the Easy Coach here to help me identify some of that and figure out maybe even beyond the things I've identified, how to build effective teams. And Flagger totally put that question out there in Discord, and I picked up on that, and I'm driving with that. So I'd really like to dive into that topic a little bit more. There's so many different ways that we could go about it. So we'll see where the stream takes us.
All right. Well,
And if there's questions, like let me know because I don't have chat open. So
that's cool. Yeah, I'll read them off if any questions that we want to address come in on chat. Uh, so the only comment so far, I'll leave the person anonymous, says maybe keep her window open when you go to images. No offense, Ethan, but she's prettier than you. That's where I threaten. That's where I threaten to ban. So anyway, so I did some research on impact maps, and because it's not a tool I've used, but it's pretty cool. It apparently only came about in 2011, so it's not. It's a very modern tool, and I'm going to switch over to the file image for a sec. So this is Kristin's impact map, and the basic idea behind an impact map is twofold. Number one, you're trying to figure out which deliverables will lead to behavioral change, and then will those behavioral changes help the organization reach its goal? So in this case, of course, it's about what are Kristin's goals and her goals for the organization. And the circled part there, I presume, because you circled it when you sent it to me, is the main area you want to focus on, the culture of the team. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay,
it's
sweet.
where I think I can have the most impact. So though these other things might provide value, and if I were to somehow estimate that it's great enough value to really push hard for it, for to get more leadership buy-in, I would do that. But these are the things I think I can have an immediate impact in.
Sweet. Well, we'll jump right on that. So one of the things you asked about was how to measure impact, and I think measuring team culture impact is super hard. And honestly, I was just talking to my coach about it. She's a PhD. She was like, people have been chasing that their whole lives. And there's an article I haven't looked up. I didn't put up in the file window. I'll see if I can find it real quick. It's a Harvard Business Review on the power of small wins. And that's like some of the only, let me see if I can find it real quick. This power of small wins, Harvard Business Review. Oh, here we go. I'll be able to, I'm so good at this now. And obviously humble too. So let's see. Let me make sure I got this. Okay. So there's very little research proving, I'm going to flip this over to file display again. So there's very little research actually showing that culture, directly tying that cultural improvement. Oh, I didn't put it up. I'm not that good at it. See, lame. There it is. I'm not that. There isn't that much research directly showing that improving team morale and individual morale and engagement results in better performance. However, this guy did it, and it's also from 2011. And what he did, or maybe it's a she, but I think it's a he, did was all this research where basically they showed that any day you have a small win, like any day you go home and something went well for you, you come back happier and more fired up the next day. So it's this day by day small thing. And they have the research to show it, so you can go read it. But they did 12,000 daily diary entries from 26 project teams and 7 companies. It's the part I'm highlighting on screen. I'm sure it's small, but you guys can look up the article. Basically, these guys have proven that better culture does have positive results. And Furoki, thank you for continuing the gift sub you got from Relive Sports. So we'll go back to Kristin again. The point here is it's very hard to prove this. So measuring it is going to be extremely hard in your workplace and in your map. I think you set a goal of increase associate engagement by 10%. So real quick, how does your company measure associate engagement? Is it a survey or what's the mechanism?
So, yeah, it's pretty much it's a survey that they do annually, and I haven't had to take it yet because I was a contractor last year, so I haven't been there long enough. So I don't actually know what those questions are, but tomorrow I'm meeting with someone and they're gonna talk me through the questions that are involved, the metrics, and giving me some insight into where we landed with the last year's survey, so that I can get a baseline at least with one thing that we have.
All right. Sounds good. So that's going to be really tough. I get that you set the goal. and or that you're considering that goal, your problem is you only get annual feedback at that point. Can we get some background on the
Right.
company and field? Yeah, Liger, I should have done that. So Kristin works in
Yeah.
healthcare in Ohio.
Mhm.
She specifically works in a healthcare industry company, but not directly in a hospital like you do. So yes, Kristin is a
Yeah.
product manager in the healthcare industry slash medical field. And she's only been at her company a few months, to probably 6 to 9 months as a full time person. Is that right? Yeah, and
That's
then
right.
like 6 or 9 months before that as a
6 months
contract.
last year.
Yeah. Um,
Yep.
okay, just got here. What are high impact teams? High impact teams. We're trying to talk about how to lead your team, and Kristin's trying to do it as a peer, which is awesome. Um, uh, she's trying to lead and develop her team to be more impactful, to be more motivated, to be more engaged. And she has a number of proposed measurements. So let's talk about those. The four she ran down in an email
TBD
to
is one
me.
of the three.
What?
I said TBD is one of them. I don't know if that counts. My measure.
Yeah, well, that's in the how. Attendance and participation in demos, associate engagement survey results. But you also talked about are new ideas surfacing? Are people growing? Do
Yeah.
people take ownership? And are they staying? Is retention good? And
Right.
those are all great indicators. They're great indicators of employee engagement. Um, and so I have a lot to say about this. I guess one thing I would say is if you think about why people come to a company, it's my opinion, this is not backed up by research necessarily, that they joined for money and title, like what am I going to do and what am I going to be paid? And then they stay for the people because after a while they can probably get more money and more title elsewhere, or at least
Right.
equal. So they're staying because they like the people and the work and the team. And so the reasons people join and the reasons people leave are very different. Um, so let's talk about how to build. Looking at your impact map, I'll bring that up again for everyone. You talk about three things you'd like to do: increase camaraderie, which you said is community building opportunities. What's FF? Face to face?
Fantasy football.
Oh, fantasy football. All right, solid. That's a
Yeah, I
good.
started it. So I already started those two things. So I've got a fantasy football league going, and I've got a book club that we're meeting it on the 28th for our
Nice.
first
And
section of the book I've been talking about in Discord.
turn the ship
Turn the ship
around.
around.
All right.
Yeah,
And do you think your
yeah,
ship?
fantasy football.
Do you think your ship needs to be turned around? Like, is there something broken, or you
Yeah.
just like it to be better?
Well, so the idea in turn the ship around is going from a leader follower approach to a leader leader approach, which is kind of more in line with, I think, extreme ownership.
Yep.
So yeah, I do think that that's needed. I think that healthcare in general is a very hierarchical industry, and it's a big company. Well, not compared to Amazon, but for me, it's a big company, and so you lose a lot of ability in some of the traditional impacts that I'm used to leveraging in smaller companies. So kind of figuring out that balance is new to me, knowing that we're all still people, right? Whether
Right.
you're in a small company or a big company, but the way you can go about that and things you have to consider are different.
Okay.
So,
So second on your list was speak transparently, and what is lean
yes.
coffee?
So Lean Coffee is an agenda-less meeting. It's where you get a group of people that meet regularly, and you come in and everybody gets to write down the things they want to talk about, and then you dot vote on them. And then you have like a time, you time block it. So I don't know, I think most people do like 8 minutes to start, and then everybody just votes up if they want to keep talking about it, or if they don't want to keep talking, move on to the next topic, or if they're neutral. And so you kind of let the team or the group determine what you talk about and what the agenda is. And so the idea of that is to create like a safe space where one person isn't dictating the conversation. And ideally, the most important things that need to be talked about are being talked about.
Okay. And then your last one is be curious, praise and encourage curiosity, retros, demos, and drive-by.
Yeah. So I think that people tend to kind of just get into their own workspace and they just do whatever they have to do. And they're not maybe being as creative as I think they'd like to be. Sure, not everyone maybe wants to grow in that. But I've seen like sparks of it. So I know that there is people that have a desire to come up with ideas, to be creative, to do new things. But if we don't learn what each other's doing, it's hard to connect those dots. And so I feel like we're losing out on some of that potential because people who might have a brilliant idea to solve the problem that for the product I'm working on, like if they're not aware of what's going on and they're not interested and curious and they're not being encouraged to be curious and to ask questions, then I miss out on that. And I think that people tend to kind of be more reserved, especially in the larger group settings. And my goal, it kind of ties directly with both of those, really, camaraderie and speaking transparently. But essentially, I want to be encouraging people to ask questions. Like asking questions in demo have previously felt like an attack, or people get on the defense, and that renders that meeting kind of it renders it without the value you could really get. So I think that encouraging curiosity will also be part of that, building trust and letting people explore. So I want to start encouraging, just when someone does ask a question, hey, thanks for asking that question. I mean, it's as small as that sometimes.
Yep. So acknowledgement is a huge thing. We have the same survey type tools where I work at Amazon. And one of the things that my team needs to improve on is, and therefore I need to improve on, I'm the leader, is people feeling like they're acknowledged when they achieve. So that's a missing, they underrate that relative to my peers. So that's a sad commentary. And there is a question in chat I think we'll take real quick, which is how do you feel about I feel about associates taking this kind of leadership role without necessarily being an official type position? Wow. You have to be careful not to overstep or dictate, which I think Kristin's aware of. But otherwise, I think it's fantastic. In other words, you always, unless you're in a strange company or an unusual situation, you lead first and you get promoted or acknowledged second. And so if you're ever going to lead, leadership means people follow you, not that you have a title. But leadership also means that people want to follow you. And so an associate can't, quote unquote, take a leadership role, but they can earn one. And so what I guess I would say is, how do I feel about people earning this kind of leadership through what they do? Fantastic. I wish everyone did it. Now they have to be careful. You can't not everyone can lead at once. And so you have to earn the right piece of leadership or know when to lead and when to follow. But generally, I think it's great and people should absolutely be leaning in and learning. And while I'm at it, what's that?
I have an example I can share of kind of learning that balance.
Absolutely, please. That would be great, Kristin. Go for it.
Yeah. So this idea of trust, that's going to be that's kind of one of my buzzwords. I attempted to kind of bring this up and talk with this to some of our managers. And there were a couple other people in the room. Hindsight, I probably should have attempted to do this more one-on-one. I did a little bit and I got traction with some people and not with others. And unfortunately, when everyone got in the room, that one person ended up kind of silencing those who maybe did have some understanding or agreement or alignment. So I attempted to kind of bring up a little bit about, hey, like the teams don't necessarily trust the leadership in some of the decisions that we're making, especially from a culture standpoint. Of course, that's not exactly how I said it. And it was immediately like, well, what do you mean? That can't be true. Things, kind of like, well, they're going to have to get over that. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we have to get over things. I get that.
Yep.
But that really wasn't the point I was making. And I just realized while I was talking, so I'm constantly reading the room when I'm speaking. And I could tell I wasn't going to get anywhere, and it would be inappropriate for me to push that. I needed to follow up in one-to-one conversation. So I decided to move in a path I knew I could talk about, which was the way that we carry out our demos, which is kind of what I just talked about. So it went from being this kind of defensive thing when asking questions and seeing the opportunity for us to grow and be able to be more successful together by shifting the perspective of what demo is for and the value it can bring, is something I knew that they would probably all latch onto. And so I started that conversation, and they all agreed with that. I found something that we could all agree on that was one small win that would help us start to move in this direction. Out of that meeting was multiple conversations, which they carried on. And I just kind of was boots on the ground, like backing up their message at that point. And because of that, we have seen a huge shift to the point where in our last demo, we had our CIO, our CTO, our CMO, and even the brand new CEO popped in. I never even met the old CEO. And the CMO afterwards, she was like meeting a lot of us for the first time. And she was like, well, I've gone to demos in the past, over a year ago. And she goes, I can't believe how different it is now. The energy in the room, how you guys were feeding off of each other, the collaboration, the fact that you were not afraid to ask each other questions, like all the things that we've been talking about, she started bringing up and saying how she enjoyed that. And I don't know that anyone else knows, but I was like really, really proud and excited that that was the response, because it was one small conversation that sparked. And even though I had to like reel it in and be like, I can't address some of these other things. So it's one thing I could.
I'm sure people noticed. Like I feel strongly. Generally, the manager megaphone means people are listening pretty intently to executives, and if they were giving positive feedback, they may not have said anything, but people notice. Before I forget, a couple of announcements. Number one, I'm going to pick the raffle winner tonight. So back behind my head on the shelf is the hat full of all the folded slips of paper with all the subscribers. So we'll bring that down at the end, and we'll pick the winner of a free hour of coaching. Of course, you're always welcome to come on like Kristin for that hour, but it's also your option to have it private. And that'll be from all the people who were subscribed at the end of last night's broadcast, minus the people who work directly with the channel, because I coached them already when they asked for it and need it. So I have a couple thoughts for you. One of them is you've admitted and shared that you lean strongly towards the human element, or the softer side. To build an effective team, you can't love people all the way to being highly effective. There are some other pieces. And so as you think about that, because you focus so naturally and strongly on inclusion and listening and trying to draw people out, let me just give you a couple of other things to think about. Because I would say you want to not only do the soft side. So one of the resources, I'll point to it in two forms for everyone. I'm going to flip over. If you haven't heard of Simon Sinek and his famous TED Talk about Start With Why, or his related book, Start With Why, this book, talks about starting with why. And the point is, people need to understand why they're going to do work before they're really interested in doing the work. Now, they can feel, to the point I was sharing with you, Kristin, they can feel listened to and heard and appreciated. But if they don't know why they're being asked to do what they're doing, those things alone won't get them there. And then let me see, switching back, I think it's all in his image. He has this, I'll put it back up real quick. Um, Even if you just look at the beginning of the video here, it says why, then how, then what. The what is the goals. Like, what are we specifically going to do? The how is, how are we going to go about it? But it starts with why. So one of the things I would just share is, as you think about leading and motivating your team, think a little bit about what can you help them understand about the why. Even though you're not officially the leader, you can lead people to that shared vision of what are we trying to accomplish. Um, and in video games, actually, there's a lot of research in video games that shows game design tries to is based on autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So the idea is for people to be motivated, they need to feel like they have the autonomy to do their own work, that they're improving in mastery, they're getting better at it. And then the why, the vision is the purpose. And then the last thing is community or connectedness. So you're very excellent at focusing on and drawing out that community and connectedness. You have to set them up, if you can, to have autonomy, mastery, and purpose as well. So I'll take a breath. You wanted to know more about building successful teams. I don't think there's any one perfect recipe, but those are some of the elements. Are there some of those you're missing or that you feel you can or can't address? Anything jump out to you?
Well, so sometimes the why that I need to be able to explain is actually to leadership in representing, what's being asked or misunderstood. And that's hard. It's hard because I don't really want to be the person speaking up all the time. And when I'm having conversations with people, like even today, someone said, you literally just synthesized everything I've been feeling this week that I've been trying to figure out how to say in my conversations with XYZ. And that's just a part of how it's probably because I verbally process with them and I'm helping like figure out what it is. So I can get that from the person, but then how to translate that sometimes back up can be difficult when I don't have that bigger picture, which we've talked about before, that sometimes, you don't have the big picture of the goals or the issues that leadership is working to overcome. And so in their mind, I don't know what they're thinking, and it's hard for me to get perspective, I guess. So that's one area.
So let's see, chat's getting in here, which is good because chat's been silent. I was just going to invite you, chat. If you have things I should cover or thoughts on this, jump in. Liger says, I feel like this could backfire really hard if the team starts feeling like Kristin is being a stage hog. This requires a lot of finesse and social skills to pull off. That is for sure. I think Kristin believes those are some of her strengths. But what I would say is what I hear as a leader is I hear you blaming leadership. That may not be what you're trying to do. But when I talked about making sure the team understands why, you pivoted it to making sure that the leaders understand why. That could be true. But I know a lot of times you talk about needing to get leadership to change. And of course, leadership always thinks it's the team that needs to change. So if you're going to straddle those two, it's how you build trust in both directions. So just be careful.
Yeah.
You're currently in like the woman of the people role. If you ever end up in a leadership position, the shoe will be on the other foot and you'll be the one who's tone deaf according to the new you. So just try to have empathy that.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. I think the reason why I pivoted is because I've been working pretty hard at making sure I'm answering the why for the team. So that's already something I've put a lot of effort into. And not just telling them why, but teaching them how to do that with others, especially from like a product manager, product owner perspective.
Okay.
So I think that's incredibly important, and sometimes we forget that. So I'm always going back to the goal, but I like this kind of shifting it to always go back to the why before the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. So one thing I talk about you, uh, what is Kristen's goal? Is it to climb into leadership? No, that's a question from chat. Um, the covert goal. I don't know if she has a covert goal. Um, and the 10% figure in the chart, by the way, this is chat again, just came from her trying to pick a metric, some way to measure some kind of success. Um, no,
Yeah.
I think Kristen's actual goal, well, let me not do that. Kristen, what is your goal? What is not your 10% goal, but like
Well,
when you think, just restate for chat quickly, what's your workplace goal that you care about?
I mean, my goal is to enjoy what I'm doing, and what I enjoy doing is helping other people grow. And so if I see things that could shift to enable that, that's kind of what I'm working towards doing, without jeopardizing the success of the product or the company. Like it's it's not at the expense. I want to maintain both of those. I would say, yeah, like I think I will be more. I can serve better in a leadership role. So sure, I want to move into that role, but
Oh, there you go, Liger. Secretly, it's world domination, but she's willing to be patient and
yeah,
helpful.
I want to.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't like held an official leadership position, so maybe when I get there, I'll let you know if it changes. Um, I think that I can serve better in that position, but I
Let's
also know there'll be
see. The
some
next
challenges.
election's 2020, but Kristen's not going to be 40. So we're like Kristen 2032. That's the
No,
campaign.
thank you. I'm not
Well,
into
she's from
politics.
Ohio,
I
home of
can't
8
handle it.
presidents. Mind you, most of them lame, but 8 presidents. Only Virginia is tied. Special history fact for all you folks. Unfortunately, if you stack up the Ohio presidents and the Virginia presidents, you can do that in chat. It's not a fair list. Like Virginia's like Washington, Jefferson. Yeah, we got like Garfield. Anyway, but she's smiling. So Kristen 2032, we can start the campaign now. Bring those bits in, and we'll save them, and they'll build up.
No, thank you. I don't think so.
All right, back to real work. So I appreciate the fact you're trying to balance, management in any team. Let's talk about a gelled team. Everyone, particularly if you think football and you do fantasy football, is aware of the teams that don't have any stars on them, um, yet outperform those teams that have lots of star players. And this is a really well known phenomenon. And it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes the team with the most stars wins, but sometimes the team with the best coach and a set of good but average players wins. If you don't believe me, go watch the movie Moneyball, or frankly any underdog story ever told. Um, and your workplace team is just like that. A team that really is cohesive and magically gelled uh, can usually outperform any other team. We have someone rooting for Oakland. We'll see if Oakland's a gelled team. Um, I'm not convinced yet, but it could be. Oh, the
Certainly
A's.
not the
Yeah, okay, that's
Steelers.
Moneyball. Got it. So, anyway, how do you build that gelled team? Well, the big thing is teams have to be willing to put the team and the goal in front of each individual person. Um, right? It's literally that there's no I in team from sports. You get the same thing in the workplace. Is in engineering what we see, and I'm sure you have an equivalent in your job. Somebody's got to do like the maintenance work and go do the server
Yep.
maintenance or the upgrades or the patching or the bug fixing, and maybe the team rotates through that. But the point is, if everyone's too into what they're ball hogs and they all want to do the cool new feature themselves, the
Mhm.
project fails. And ironically, it fails for work that any of the team members could have done, but none of them were willing to because they were more into their personal
Mhm.
work. So, um, how are you thinking about trying to engender in your team the spirit of team and vision before purely individualism?
Well, I think it's a lot to do with that trust factor. So that's why speaking transparently is a piece of that. I want everyone that needs to speak up at the table. Like, I want everyone to be able to do that. I don't want to just invite the right people to the table. And by the right people, I'm meaning that oftentimes we pull like if I want my engineers to get to be more creative, but they're not getting to come into the story until I already have the stories written out for them, then it might limit some of that. So where is it okay or helpful and not just sucking up time to bring those people in sooner than later? And when I bring them in, if they don't speak up, it's probably not going to help too much. So I think speaking to their value and letting them know that they are valuable and their opinions are valuable, even if they don't have all the insight of the upfront strategy, at the moment. That would be one way, one example.
Okay.
Is that kind of what you're asking about?
Yeah, it's all the key is to motivate people that the team victory is more important than their individual stats, and it's getting the belief that you have my back and I have yours. So you can go to war stories and like there was a mini series called Band of Brothers. Like one of the things about people who've been under fire in the military is usually when they come back out, they never trust anyone as much as the people they shared a foxhole with, just because those people literally stood by them in life and death, and now like the trust can't be broken. How do you get that trust on a team? And that's actually why, for example, Outward Bound and some of the other consultancies do the thing with trust falls and trying to build team trust, and like I topple backwards into everybody's arms, and if they don't drop me on the ground, I have more trust that my team has my back. Furoki's bailing out. He's saying good night all. Well, you have to be here to win, Furo. No, I'm kidding. Kristin's up on the East Coast too, She's right there with you because I'm pretty sure you're in the same time zone. You thought trust falls were only a thing in movies. No, millions of dollars have been spent on trust falls. So the best definition I've heard of trust is consistency over time. You earn trust by being consistent over time. And it is a leadership function to show that and engender it. And you, Kristin, as the leader, can encourage it and reward it and acknowledge it. But it's the culture you set builds trust over time, and rewarding people for doing what needs to be done, not doing what is most glorious. Because a good coach on one of those teams, someone may make a brilliant play, but in a selfish way, and they won't reward that, whereas they will reward the not brilliant or even failed play, but that was done as a team. And that's a big part of creating that gelled team. And you can only do this, by the way, with units that are so big. Now, your team's fairly small, right?
Yeah, I mean, a typical product team is not going to be more than like 10 people. Although I might be working with a network of people that are associated in different ways.
But you can build really good intimacy with 10 people, right? Like everyone can know each other's spouses or kids and schools and like lots of things. And so that can help. Chat says, by the way, karaoke is a great trust fall. And it is.
I was just talking about karaoke.
How is your team suited geographically and dispositionally to do anything after work ever?
I don't know. Every once in a while, you can get a few people to go out for a happy hour, but I would say a lot of people just want to get home to their families.
Yep.
So that's not really something people want to invest their time outside of work in. So a lot of it does need to happen in the work. And so I think maybe one of the ways is like reading people and knowing when to follow up with someone. I would say the danger in that is if you can't do anything about it. So it only will work so for so long you checking in with someone if something if feels off to them or they have, hesitation or maybe they're really excited about something and you want to like help, encourage that. But if you can't do anything about it, then that kind of would over time be maybe not the right consistency. I don't know.
Well, so I am going to challenge you again. Tonight's my night of challenges. I hear in you a lot of Kristin will fix it. Like I will go follow up with them. To scale
Yeah,
what you're
I
trying.
can't fix it all.
Yeah, no, you can't. Um, to scale it all, you need to get the team to follow up with the team and engender a culture where you're not the only rescuer. And I think because you
Yeah.
have success with your social skills, a little bit just like I heard you kind of poking at management, I hear in you a desire that you'll go get everyone to love each other through your efforts. Maybe you don't completely mean that, but I think you have some of that instinct. And stepping back
Mm-hmm.
a little and realizing you need to teach a man or woman to fish, not buy them a fish for the long
Right.
term. Um,
Right.
and there's some questions in chat, and I can't agree more strongly. They're all asking about different ways to get the team together socially. Is it possible to get some of the team together outside of work during work hours, like group lunch? Can you do dinner? Can you do dinner with spouses? What I will say, uh, people, the human animal, like you were talking about being hungry this morning, it loves to eat. And it's wired. You can't try this sometime. Think about someone you don't like and then try to imagine having a pleasant, better if there is someone, I don't want you to hate anyone, but if there's someone you already hate or loathe or really can't stand just because they're annoying, imagine trying to have a nice dinner with them. And it's really hard because those two things are incompatible. You don't share your food with people other than friends. And the reverse is
Mm-hmm.
true too. Um, the more you can get friends together, you can get people together to eat and to do other things like that, the more they will bond. Um, let's see. Chat says, my favorite thing is playing catch with the ball. Whoever has the ball says something, you pass the ball to everyone, and then everyone says something to contribute. Any sort of team building activity, they all seem kitschy and trite, but over time they work. And the team building tests. There's all sorts of different stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard. Have you ever seen this thing called helium stick? Do you know this one? I can't
No.
demonstrate it here, but there are all these little team building exercises that don't take much work. The Liger says there's a Swedish thing called fika you should look into. I hope he explains that because I have no idea what it is.
Fika
Fika,
is coffee.
Fika's
If,
coffee.
I think that's what he means.
Okay.
That's Swedish, right?
Okay.
For coffee, I think. That's like probably the only word I know. So
It's
hopefully that's
pronounced fika.
right.
Well, he says it's pronounced that way, but it's more than coffee. So we'll get our
Oh.
lesson here in a second. Um, okay, so we talked about trust. You've talked about ownership before. Ownership comes from you wanted to increase ownership on your team. One thing there is just making people aware of what ownership looks like. Like it's not clear because not everyone's read extreme ownership that they even have a model or a concept. And I've shared this on channel before. I once ran into a guy at my university where he actually said he needed to do something really simple. I can't remember what it was, but it was like pretty simple. But he was like a union employee in the bowels of the university system, low on the totem pole, and he said, "I ain't making no damn decision." Like he said to, whoever his peer or whatever, who said, well, just do this. He's like, I ain't making no damn decision. And it sticks out to me not only because of the English used, but just how resistant he was to the idea like people who make decisions get in trouble. And I don't,
Mhm.
so how willing are people on your team, would you say, to step up and to own things? Since you want to increase ownership, where are they at mentally with the concept? And is there
Yeah.
fear?
Um, I don't think most of them are afraid. I think most of them would be willing, but it's a matter of, like you were saying, what are those opportunities and what does that look like? Um, and honestly, just helping them see the value that they can bring by doing that. So, and a lot of this is kind of tying back to Liger. I don't know how far he's reading, but the Mindset by Carol Dwecker. So she's talking about how actually it ties right in with what you were talking about with sports, and how that simple shift of a mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset can enable a lot of the things that we're talking about. And so I guess I'm also curious on your thoughts there. And then I feel like that's a good starting point, is to help teach the growth mindset, which maybe I'll learn as I finish that book, but I'm only halfway through.
And you're reading Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck, is that right?
It's just it's just called Mindset, I
Just
think.
called Mindset.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up so I can pull it up and share it. So, what was the question on how you
Carol
want to
Dweck,
teach it
yeah.
again, specifically?
Yeah, I mean, in general, just like, how do you go about teaching a growth mindset
So,
without
I
it
thought
being
about
like some
this.
weird?
I thought about this when you asked the question. Who's the author of Mindset?
Carol
Carol
Dweck.
Dweck. Okay.
D.
DWECK. Yeah. So I'll bring it up here, real quick. So for everybody who's wondering, we talk a lot about growth mindset. I think almost everyone who comes to this channel probably has a growth mindset. Not everyone will, but the simple difference between a growth mindset and not is people with a growth mindset um, generally believe that they can improve and change. People with a fixed mindset more think they're however smart they are, they're however strong, fast, quick they are, and it's not really going to change. They're not going to get better at geometry. They're not going to get better at spelling. And so they better only take tasks where their current skills are adequate. People with a growth mindset say, oh, I didn't succeed yet. People with a fixed mindset say, I failed. And part of it can just sound like happy bullshit, like, oh, I didn't fail, I just didn't succeed yet. That's not really it. It's not that you delude yourself, but you have a belief that you can improve. How to teach that? I don't know. I have not read anything that says people don't shift that mindset easily. And the mindset is often deeply rooted in how they were raised. It's usually tied back to, was someone praised for effort or for results? Or were they criticized for only for results? I don't know if there's anybody in chat who's finished the book or knows more about it. It looks like Guniush is here, and he may have read it. Does it say anything about training the growth mindset? Excuse me. All right. Meanwhile, Liger came back on Fika, and his explanation is that it's not just having coffee, but it's doing it in a social setting where there's more of a norm of talking about outside of work stuff, so not just talking shop. And nobody in the Fika room is a boss. Like, the manager can be there, but he or she is treated as a peer there and acts as a peer, not as a boss.
Yeah.
And so that sounds amazing, but it does require the cultural understanding that that's how it works.
Yeah, I think we could achieve that. I think there's already a little bit of that. So, and that kind of ties in with like why I went the fantasy football route. So we Slack each other during games. Like, there's a group of 10 of us in the league, and the goal for me was to get people on different teams and on different products and in different disciplines to get to know each other on something unrelated to work.
And by the way, it's been part of building a network. Super powerful.
Yeah, it's just like the dynamic has shifted. I mean, one of the guys that I work with, I just feel like the work relationship is totally different. Like they walk by my desk and they're just chatting it up, and it's been really nice. It's been fun.
It's the same as eating food. It's the power of bonding together. So I'm completely with you on that. Um, so a couple comments in chat. I think Kuraluta's got a good point, which is part of the growth mindset is not only what you believe about yourself, but what you believe about others. Do you believe that others can grow and improve? And it may be that some people who honestly are suspicious of their own ability to grow still have faith in others. But I do agree, you're going to have a very different team. You're going to have a very different team if the leader in particular doesn't believe people can grow or improve. A fixed mindset in a leader is going to be very hard. How do you
Yeah.
get people to have a growth mindset? I think making them aware of the concept and then helping them see improvement in themselves. But really changing that base mindset, from potentially a type of pessimism to optimism. I've honestly never attempted it. I will say normally the workplace I'm around, people tend to have a growth mindset. It's a matter of degree. Um, yeah. So that's a hard one, though. Of the things you've talked about, I can see how to create trust, to explain a vision, to improve ownership. Growth mindset is really hard. Um, let's see. Gunia, she's read the book, says, I'm not sure if the book goes into growing others to have a growth mindset more than just recommending the book. But I think it will have to do with the shifting of their focus more to improvements, uh, more for improving areas of weakness rather than enjoying compliments about strength. Yeah. So definitely they have to somehow get around to the idea they can improve and that they want to. Um, Now, it does say
Good
Hephaestus
point.
has a good comment here that we've talked about on stream a bunch. Devin Nash is a huge fan of this, which is in order to grow, uh, surround yourself with people who believe in growth. So, to your point, Kristin, if you can get a majority of people on the team thinking growth and acting growth, the great thing about team is the culture follows the trendsetters and the majority. So you don't actually have to have that gelled, non-selfish team. You can have selfish
Yeah.
people on it as long as they're not the norm. And you can have fixed mindset people, but if they find themselves surrounded by optimists who believe, um, uh, they will generally become that. And so I know you want to be a leader. You said that earlier, meaning in a leadership position, and that may happen for you someday. At that point, one thing that's really important is a question I often ask people when I interview is what is the last thing you learned and how did you learn it? And that gets at a little bit, do they have a learning mindset? Can they answer that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I learned this way, I learned that way, I read books, I go to classes, I study with others, or are they like, and like and so you get people with that learning eagerness, and then that becomes your team.
Yeah.
Now, where you are right now, you're not in that situation, but let's see. Uh, oh yeah, and Kurluda talks about the for the obviously if you've read much of mindset or anything about it, you need to congratulate effort as opposed to congratulating results. So you do need to talk
Yeah.
about you did your best. Here's where it went well. Here's where it can still be better, but you put in the effort and I saw the effort and you're on the path. And that kind of encouragement, not
So
just, oh, you made us a ton of
from an
money. Good job.
engineer's perspective, since that's primarily who I work directly
Yep.
with, the idea of like fail fast and that failure is okay and we're not looking for perfection but continuous improvement. Would that tie in, and do you think that there'd be room to maybe leverage that approach, which I'm still trying to really understand because I don't know that we embody that? We say we do and we say we value it, but I'm trying to figure out ways to exemplify it so that we can be encouraged and really understand and embrace what it means.
Yeah.
So thoughts on that?
So leaders have to support taking risks. And ironically, I'm speaking on this at Amazon tomorrow to a bunch of our leaders. How you deal with risks that fail, when people take a risk or take a chance, how the leader responds to failure will determine if anyone ever takes a risk again. And so this is a place where you really do need to get your leader on board. And it's a place where I'd stick my neck out a little if a leader were really critical of a failure. I would, even in your role, I'd try to come in from the side and say, well, it didn't work out, but what are your thoughts about the effort and the attempt? Wasn't it a good thing to make the attempt? And I would try to redirect that way. Because if it doesn't get redirected to positive on the attempt, it's going to be brutal. And when you are the leader, another thing you can do, related to this, whether you're the leader or not, is you can ask for a retrospective. And you can make sure that retrospective is not only about what went wrong, but, we're buffering. I'll see if that comes back. At least my stream started buffering. So good old Comcast. If we're losing it, we'll hope it comes back here in a second.
There you go.
Yeah.
You froze.
Yep. It unfroze now, I think. That's Comcast's favorite for me. Anyway,
Retrospective.
Yeah, you do a retrospective, but you try to focus it on what can do well. What was positive, not just on fault finding. You can obviously catalog all the things that could have been better, but retrospectives, if they do focus on what went well and praising what went well, and that gets equal time, that will encourage a growth mindset. So
yeah, what did we learn? I like to focus in on that a lot of times too. That's good to know.
All right. So in terms of actions, you're obviously reading the book, you're leading your book club. My big takeaways for you, just looking at my notes, remember that management's not the only bad guy. The team has to pull along. Management may need to change too, and you can help there. Second, remember that it's not all human relationships. You do need the vision and some of the structure. A team can't be successful without the resources and some of those pieces as well, but particularly the vision and start with why, as well as people trusting and some of the softer side. And then you need to, I feel like, how can you find some allies here? How can you more talk about your vision for the team and get other people working with you and go to the meta level of, hey, what kind of team would you like to be on? And how can we create that, as opposed to only trying to sort of herd them as sheep into your form? Talk about what kind of team we'd all like to be. You know, we're all in this together. Like, what would be fun? What do we each want out of this? What does team victory look like for us? And you get people, I was going to do actually for chat, our question of the week that we do every week usually. I didn't get to do it last night. So I'll do the question of the week here in a second. So chat, get ready. You'll all have to wade in and answer. And Kristin and I will answer. I'll put her on the spot because it's a fun, easy question. But building that kind of relationship where you get people to share. Arthur Aaron's whole research is based on the fact that if you share something personal, other people will tend to share something personal in return. And once you know more about the other person, you feel more committed and bonded to them. You think about how you feel about a coworker that you learn has had a tragedy, whether it's a sick parent or a sick child or whatever, your empathy goes out to them. So, question of the week, everybody. Let's hear them in chat. The question of the week, we're on number 12. We've been doing this for about 12 weeks, and this one's fun. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained one quality or ability, what would it be? So, Kristin, we'll let you go first.
Is this
Tomorrow,
like a
magically,
realistic or like
what?
a super, like a realistic thing or like a superpower?
Well, I have a superpower answer and I have a realistic one. So you go first, but feel
Oh,
free. X-ray vision or whatever it is you want is on limits first.
I mean, superpower, pretty sure I'd want to fly. It just
Yeah.
seems fun
Yep, I'm right
and
with you.
efficient.
That's mine. It's written down here. I would fly. Okay, so we both want to fly, up, up, and away. Come on, chat. What do you guys want?
um, I guess from a more realistic perspective, it'd probably be an ability to pick up on languages, like any language, to just learn it quickly. And I think that would be really fun. So
That's a solid. That's a
I really
solid.
lack in that department.
That would be a solid ability. That's awesome. Um, Boy, Liger's a killjoy tonight. He says, I would choose the ability to ground people who choose the ability to fly. Wow, harsh. Killjoy. I don't know. He's been like ornery today. It's you. Oh well, he had some creature in his ear. You didn't see that part of the chat. He had to like lay around and have wax drained out of his ear or something. The introvert in the room, 40 Pink Dragons, who's our resident introvert leader, says invisibility. Kiraluta says patience, but she's claiming patience as her superpower. Um, Guniyesh, the ability to coach any level of performer to perform at a higher level. That one's good. That's strong. I would say better listener. Listening is my weakness. And that's obviously why I'm a Twitch streamer. I get to talk most of the time. Um, but I would be a much better leader if I were a better listener. Shadow loves the language one. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Get them in here. There's people in chat I know who haven't answered. It's your superpower or just your quality or ability you would like to have. Um, so, what else? All right. So, with that, any parting questions, Kristin? I'll go get the hat and draw our raffle winner.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding when you were talking about like finding some of those early adopters maybe, or people who align with the vision.
Yeah.
Um,
Allies.
is that kind of what when you're mentioning like scaling it, like thinking in terms of scaling, is that kind of part of that,
That
or is
is
that
part of
something
that.
else?
No,
Okay.
that's part of it. Part of it is just the first part of scaling is just moving your mental set from I'm going to convince everyone to be a team and like do it
Yeah.
myself by you said knowing when to follow up with people. You can only do so
Yep.
much of that. So the question to
Right.
think about is how do you lead in groups, not lead one-on-one only? Because
Yeah.
one-on-one only scales so big, whereas group actions scale more.
Yeah,
And
I
then the
think I have some peripheral knowledge of that, but I would like to learn a little bit more. Maybe that's going to be some of my homework is to come up with some ways to approach that because that's like off the top of my head, nothing's like just coming to me. So,
yeah, well, so
but
that's
I know
you
I
need
need
to
to do that.
think
So
about that. One of so Emmett Shear, the CEO of Twitch, told me that one of the biggest things he's learned being CEO now that the company is very large, like over 1,000 people, is to lead groups, not one-on-one. And like as an example, Jeff Bezos hasn't had a one-on-one at Amazon. He doesn't do one-on-ones and hasn't done them in over a decade. He only meets with groups of people. And he just doesn't do one-on-ones with anybody, not his direct reports, not with anyone. And so it's a scaling mechanism. And it's not that one-on-ones are bad, but you start thinking about how could I bring several people along where I'm going at once and yet still have them feel included. And part of that is finding those allies who will work with you. Oh, I'm supposed to look at Chalupa's answers. The ability to say no and not feel bad. That is, no, that's a huge power. Uh, oh, and I see it's Pink Dragons who knows that's a weakness of mine calling me out. That's another weakness. I don't say no very well. I like to help people, and it gets me overcommitted. Um, I have a fear of missing out. Anyway, fair enough. So I'm gonna take off the headphones, go grab the hat, and we'll see who we get here. So one sec.
I feel like I should take over his stream like he does for Devin.
So everybody's name's on a post-it who's a subscriber. It'll be upside down, but the hat I picked is a Twitch Prime hat. I thought that was appropriate. And so all the subscribers are in here, minus the people who work on the channel. And since there could be a couple subscribers who don't actually want the coaching, I won't reveal it. I'll draw a winner, and then I will draw, whoops, somebody got dropped out of the hat. I will draw a backup name. Just in case that person isn't interested, I'll hold the backup name aside and I'll have someone else. So with that, I am not looking. All right, we have a lucky winner. Oh, the winner is a common person who's here all the time. We'll see if he's interested. He might be here tonight. If not, I'm sure I can reach him. It's Matchstick Man TV. Matchstick, are you here tonight? I haven't seen you in chat, but you might be lurking. And then I will draw a backup. And I'll have that one just in case. And everyone else, thank you. These are all the subscribers. So there. I have all the subscribers on. Thank you all for being a part of supporting WTA and supporting Easy Coach. I love it. It's great fun. Matchstick Man is a usual contributor here. He's a big participant in our Discord channel. If you haven't joined Discord, please do. I'm going to do some advertisements, and then we'll wrap up with Kristin. So next week, on the 22nd, this is your chance for all the loyal followers to get in Discord or to email me at easycoach1@gmail. We're going to do, on the 22nd, Devin and I are going to do behavioral tests. And so we're going to do the Myers-Briggs test, StrengthsFinder, and DISC, all three. He'll have his results. I'll have mine. We'll go over all those tests, what they're used for, and you'll get all these insights into the elusive Devin Nash as well as me. And then on the 26th, on his show, we're going to do a resume review. And I'm going to bring a copy of my resume so that everyone can pick it apart. Because if I give all this advice, I might as well, I need to. What's good for everybody else is good for me, and then we'll go over other people's resumes too if you want to share yours. Question in chat is, how much should we raise for the WTA? About $900. We had 4 hours of coaching at 500, 110, 110, and 100. Curluta asks, can we guess what your results will be? That's fun. I think I've already said what my results are, at least for Myers-Briggs previously. Hydrate, it's good to see you here. Kristin, have you taken any of the different tests? I think you said you had, right?
So, yeah, I've taken StrengthsFinder, and I love it because it's so unique how your combination applies.
Yep.
And then I just took DISC, and I don't know that I really agree. I mean, I agree with some of it.
Okay.
But it strongly put me as a D, and I feel like I'm more an I. So, and I was on I don't know. It's my first time, so I haven't read through the entire report yet.
Okay. Well, read it through. Do you have woo? Curluta wants to know if you have woo.
No, I don't. Not in my top 5. I didn't pay to see the top, 30 or whatever it is. No, I'm a developer, empathy, communication, input, and it was adaptability the first time I took it, and then it switched to something else, and I'm blanking out on what it is. But
I don't have all of mine memorized. I'm a strategist, but my biggest one is activator. I have to do things. I can't sit still. So get it done, make it happen, and it's probably served me well. But it is really interesting because someone else who had taken the test predicted that I would have activator. So I think that's interesting because it gives you a language to understand each other. That's obviously why
Mhm.
Curluta is asking about Woo. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Woo is I won't even try and explain it, but it's an interpersonal skill about groups and no
Like
Woo.
winning someone over.
Yeah. So
No, no woo.
no Woo. Uh, Curluta, do you have Woo? Are you a Woo person? So anyway, the point is, we'll be back in Awesome Dave's basement studio on the 22nd, doing all the behavioral tests. I hope everyone will join us. It's been a great audience here tonight. And then the 26th is a Saturday. I'll go to Devin's studio. We'll do the resume review. If you want us to do a speed run over your resume, get it into me because Devin's got like 50,000 followers. And so he'll dominate unless you get resumes to me because I'll force him, we'll go one on one. And so we need to bring the really professional, highly polished resumes and be like, this is how it's done. No, I don't care. Send in whatever you like. I have fun going over them. Kristin, you'll be live here in Awesome Dave Studios still on November 8th, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
So Kristin's coming out from Ohio to visit beautiful Seattle, to visit family
Yep.
here, but we set up a Friday evening and she's going to hop on the show. So she and I will get to talk live, get to know each other. We've never met, and we're super excited to do that. And it's
Yep,
just 3 weeks,
it'll
so
be
you
fun.
can do your research on how you're going to bring your team scale and do your actions as groups, not just individually.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And if, as always, if you have any questions for me between sessions or something I said didn't make sense or you're not sure what to do with it, just reach out.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ethan.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we're out. Here we go.